but the interpretation is human, and that's what's up for debate, is which interpretation predominates, what is the Islam that we're talking about.
Well, let me turn it over to Walid, because if there are different, of course there's different interpretations of the Islam and its teachings, how do we go about even reforming something that can be defined in 4 different methods?
Well, it is very difficult because Brother Jasser says that we need basically to allegorize the Quran. If the Quran came perfect in Arabic, then what do you do with the literal verses? And the allegorization process becomes difficult because even Brother Jasser, you know, like some commandments in the Quran are pretty clear. Don't drink alcohol. Jasser doesn't drink alcohol because it's a clear commandment in the Quran. And even though in the Quran in the past you were allowed to drink alcohol, but due to the process of abrogation, that means you cannot drink alcohol, which means then if Jasser doesn't drink alcohol, it means that he doesn't drink alcohol because those permissible laws about alcohol has been abrogated. So you end up believing in abrogation. It's very difficult. Muhammad is not here, that's correct, but he is here in a way because the hadith is here. Now, to say that it's easy to kind of undermine the hadith because the hadith, a lot of it was corrupted or changed or what have you, but this is a difficult argument. It's like saying the New Testament has been corrupted, and this is how we should be looking at the Old Testament as the Bible. That becomes a very difficult thing for a Christian. He's no longer a Christian if he denies the New Testament. So if somebody says, well, the hadith got corrupted, well, how come Islam or Allah could not basically protect the hadith? The hadith is not just simply the words of Muhammad a lot of times, because the hadith itself has قال الله تعالى, Allah says. There are commandments from Allah in the hadith. So it becomes a problem because of the literal fashion of the Quran. Now, I don't doubt Brother Jasser's intent. I mean, he's truly intending to reform Islam. I think his intents are pure. I think the man is of his word. But I tend to find a problem in this, in the approach of saying, well, let's just allegorize it. I've looked at Ashmawi, and I loved what I read. In fact, last dialogue we had, Brother Jasser suggested to read Ashmawi. I did. I got the whole manuscript in the Arabic, and I looked through it, perused through it. I truly enjoyed what I read, and I liked what I saw of what he wrote. But even Brother Ashmawi would tend to say that basically the hadith was changed. And in fact, Ashmawi comes from a confessional standpoint. He says that Arabs, and I quote him, he says, Arabs did not enter into Islam submitting and obeying as the Quran says. Now, Ashmawi is negating what the Quran claims. You see, I mean, how else can you explain it? Arabs did not enter into Islam submitting and obeying as the Quran says, but they came as a result of the Prophet's control and rule over them by the Muhajirun and the Ansar. In other words, he is confessing that in Islam there is violence. In Islam, violence was commissioned by the Prophet of Islam himself. From a confessional standpoint, then you can come to the conclusion of, yep, we can reform. But my problem is that I don't find much confessions from many of the elements that want to reform Islam. When I asked the question about Muhammad and violence last time, I hope I misunderstood Jasser, maybe he can clarify it. But what I understood his answer to be is that since there was violence committed against the Jews of Banu Qurayza, it is impossible for the Prophet to have done so because he's pure. I think this basically becomes a problem with facing the fact in history.
You know,